I'm fired up today. This is Crypto Talk with Brianna and Scott, and I'm Scott. Hi, Brianna. How you doing?
I am so glad to hear you're fired up because I need the fire right now. I am sitting here in the cold. I do not have heat in my house today, so
Oh no,
I'm still braving through it.
burr.
And yeah, bring the fire. I
Bring the
have
fire.
blankets below where you can't see. But yeah,
Uh, so
I'm
your
here.
heater's at. Oh, that's right. Yesterday you said something about the heater, so you didn't fix it, huh?
Well, it was fixed temporarily, and then I was gone for the night. I came home about an
Oh
hour
no.
ago and cold. And I think it was
Oh
last week, Scott, because we're both in the Pacific Northwest. But I was
yeah,
all stoked. I was like, I think spring's coming and it's sun is
yeah,
shining, the snow's gone, and now it's snowing and
yeah.
it's getting really cold back down to like single digits again. And now I don't have heat again. So
Oh bummer.
how are
Yeah, no,
you?
that's. I'm good. I'm good. We got I don't know about maybe 2 inches of snow this morning actually, and yeah, it's supposed to get real cold. But I'm hoping that this might be the last blast of winter for us. But we'll see. I don't know. I'm wishful thinking. When is Groundhog Day? That's coming up, isn't it? Then we'll find out.
Yeah, I never
I
know.
think
It
it's
always comes and
February.
goes before I know
Super
it. Yeah.
Bowl, Groundhog Day, something in
Yeah.
there. Yeah, no, I was a little low energy myself. I couldn't sleep last night, and I just got up early and started working, and so that's why I had to get myself fired up. And I got my new. It's funny because I got this my little Bitcoin bracelet here. I got that in the mail about right before Christmas or whatever. So I'm wearing it proudly.
Hi. That is
Bitcoin,
great.
Bitcoin, and actually, and you can talk about your articles, but today I'm going to talk about is Bitcoin finally hit the bottom? We're going to talk about that, and we're also going to talk about DeFi degens, and will insurance companies help even DeFi degens? So that I'm going to talk about today. What are you going to talk about today?
I am talking about stable coins, kind of
Cool.
hot, the continual hot topic of crypto these days. Um, well, I might not say that. There's a lot of really exciting things happening. Stable coins are just kind of in the forefront of that regulation. So I'm, of course, sticking to that, wanting to see how that's going to play out. So I have a really good article today coming from. It's kind of a summary of a Coin Bureau video that I found to be super not full of knowledge that I really enjoyed. So that's what I'll be bringing forth today.
Cool, 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 cool. Well, so we're so glad you're here. If you are live, if you are, say hi to us. Give us a little comment in the chat. Also, let us know what you want to talk about, or what you're thinking as we're talking about the topics. We'd love to hear your comments, and we can kind of respond back and forth, which would be fun. Yeah. So my first question is, what do you think of the Coin Bureau guy? Guy, isn't that his name? Guy.
Guy. Uh-huh. Are we asking
Guy.
me or are we asking
Well, I'm
are
asking
we
you, but then we can ask anyone else.
okay.
What do you?
I like Guy. I really appreciate Guy. I remember the first time this last summer I think it was this last summer that I started watching his videos, and he used to have this whole little thing about his videos that were like these rhymes, and it was
Yeah, at the
pretty funny.
beginning. Right? He
And
still, I think he still does, doesn't he? Actually, you're right. Seems like lately he just jumps right in, doesn't he?
yeah, and I was really impressed by his videos back when I was like, wow, like this is what I need to be listening to because it just gets straight to the point.
Yeah,
You can tell there's a lot of research done behind it, and his
yeah,
values seem to align with my views when it comes to crypto. Uh,
yeah.
and he is just like, I don't know, maybe it's just that I didn't know before, but I feel like he's really skyrocketed. I'm pretty sure that Coin
Really?
Bureau is one of the top, if not the top, YouTube like influencer channels.
Might be. I know it's way up there, and he gets a lot of views, and yeah, it's good quality content. And I have been watching him, yeah, for a couple of years too, and I liked him a lot at first. It's just kind of, just to be honest, I don't know and I don't know what it is. I think I liked his when he was funnier. I don't know. I mean, he still does that, but it's just kind of, I don't know. You got to switch it up. The thing I like about I like Mark Moss is, although his are pretty, they sound sort of the same, but he mixes it up. He's got interviews, he's got stuff where he's at a desk, he's got stuff where he's up at his smart board. I just like variety, I guess. So, but I do like Coin Bureau stuff. I don't know why. I just thought that'd be interesting if anybody had any comments on that. It is one of the go-to sites for like pretty in-depth videos on content, right? And or stories. So that's good. Anyways, unlike ours, which is kind of all over the place, which can be good. You're getting like our honest, raw, opinion views on crypto for the most part. So we like that or not, that's what you get here.
For sure. Yeah.
All right, so you ready? You ready to rock and roll?
Ready? Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's get into it. All right, you're up.
So I'm a little bit curious, Scott, before we talk about stablecoins, is there a stablecoin that you prefer if you're willing to share, or do you diversify between stablecoins?
Not now. It's sort of interesting. I thought everybody in the world was like a USDC fan. And I think I saw yesterday one of our fellow kings who's been in the game for a while. I think he said I saw he was a Tether fan, which is interesting. So that's good. To have the diversity. I thought pretty much everybody's not written off Tether, because obviously they have massive market share. But as far as the two, USDC seems to be the only one or that will verify their assets. And for me, that's important. But what's interesting is, and I've seen other articles, and I think I either saw this one or watched part of it. The Circle issue that Coin Bureau is going to bring up, that I assume that you're going to probably bring up here. And it's a little interesting, because what I assume this is going to talk about, and maybe it's different, but it's just really how big Circle is and how centralized in a lot of ways Circle is. And they're either the majority owners of USDC. And so that's kind of interesting. They seem to have a lot of power, and Coin Bureau is talking a lot about that. So let's go ahead and dive in here, and we'll see what you got.
Yeah. Okay, so Coin Bureau, as just pointed out, it's a popular crypto channel, and it is predicting that $1 pegged stablecoin is poised to run the market. So Guy Turner, who is the Coin Bureau host, and he has 2.2 million subscribers, says that Circle's USD coin, the second largest stable coin by market cap, is on its way to overtaking Tether's USDT as the world's dominant stablecoin. So USDT has been the dominant stablecoin since I think the beginning of time of stablecoins, as far as I know. And what Guy says here is the growth of USDC's supply over the past few years is further evidence that USDC's strategy has been working. I also think that it's inevitable that USDC will become the predominant stablecoin in the next 2 years. However, I can't say that I'm completely happy about that. What Guy warns about is, for his viewers, about his concerns with USDC's issuer Circle, is that, like you pointed out, Scott, it's a very centralized firm that he says answers to TradFi, traditional finance world, and perhaps has a goal of monopolizing the market. While Circle's vision for crypto payment adoption is something I can get on board with, he says, I'm still quite skeptical of its true underlying motives. It is backed by Goldman. It has partnered with BlackRock. It has embarked on some powerful lobbying initiatives to get in the ears of politicians in Washington, D.C. and Brussels. It's also shown that it's ready and willing to censor transactions should it be instructed to do so by the powers that be. I also think that stablecoin competition is healthy, which I personally agree. It encourages issuers to continue developing better products and allows people to diversify their stablecoin holdings. We don't want a monopoly. And I personally 100% agree with that statement.
Yeah, I do too.
And then a few facts that I pulled. So what I just read was from an article, and then I pulled in some other facts from that video because I went back and watched the video in full myself, which I found quite interesting. Just a few kind of random stablecoin facts. So before the advent of stablecoins, there was no internet native form of money that could be transacted near instantly, globally, and in seamless integration with digital commerce. Tether was the pioneer of stablecoin technology, originating back in 2014. USDC has been seen explosive growth in part of the emphasis on diversifying stablecoin and holdings. The supply of USDC has grown over 860% average year-over-year growth compared to 8% for that of the physical dollars over the same time frame, where the circulation of USD versus USDC, there's a huge difference. So $2.3 trillion in USD, US dollar in current circulation versus 45 billion of USDC in circulation. And lastly, there are over 2 million USDC enabled wallets, which have surpassed over 2 million on Ethereum compatible blockchains alone. Over 75% of those wallets hold balances less than $100, which is less than typical minimum balance requirements of banking accounts and attests to a prerequisite for addressing financial inclusion challenges. And then just kind of back to that article, this is part of the reason why I do hope that one day Tether does come out with a full audit. This is Guy speaking, so that it can address the fund once and for all, or the FUD. I think that was supposed to be the FUD, once and for all. Mm-hmm. It could also help to calm the nerves of the increasingly edgy crypto community. Until that time, Circle is going to continue its aggressive growth. Any thoughts on that, Scott?
Yeah, so it's interesting. I agree. I'd love it if Tether was to verify all of its assets like USDC. You know, I don't know exactly the detail of what this entails and why they aren't doing it. I don't understand the detail enough about stablecoins because I feel like they're a lot deeper than kind of the way I perceive it. The way I perceive it is probably how most investors in crypto perceive it, and that is they just want a stable asset where they can, move their funds around and where they can, stay in crypto and not have their money or assets in a bank or something that's centralized completely. And yet I feel like we want our cake and eat it too, which is we want the stable coins to be flexible enough to make our crypto transactions, and especially in DeFi, it's a really big deal in DeFi, especially right now during the bear market. Most everything I have is in some form of stablecoin DeFi protocol, and it's quite amazing that now I am in some like USDC and then maybe some decentralized stablecoin or a little bit less where the assets maybe aren't as easily tracked back. And I can't even remember the name of it, but it's still a stablecoin, and in one spot I'm earning 20%. And so that just blows me away. It's like I'm earning 20% on cash, basically, right? Now, the downside of that is the risk. And with USDC, I just feel like from what I can tell, they're saying every asset is backed up 1-to-1 by a hard, dollar or US Treasury. So I'm like, okay, that's the part that makes me feel good. I feel safe. But that's the part now I want my cake and eat it too. I want to be fully decentralized, but I've got a now centralized entity that is securing my stablecoin. So it's like half and half, right? It's like, I'm using it in a decentralized finance, but in a way, if Circle has that much central control of it, they could do whatever they want with that stablecoin, right? So, this is the thing about crypto that is interesting, and you've got to have thick blood or whatever or thick skin to kind of be in this game, because there's a lot of inconsistencies, and that's the part that a lot of us, I think, and I've done it certainly at times where I've just kind of put the blinders on and said, okay, yeah, I'm in crypto, so I'm all for decentralization and all for transparency and everything, and yet a lot of areas in crypto are very centralized. Like Ethereum, for example, there are components that are very centralized where people have a lot of control. Like that whole upfront, part of the validators. There's a lot of control that the validators have over what happens, to my transactions. And of course, again, here in stablecoins. So it's one of those paradoxes in crypto that we all just have to deal with because, again, it's in its infancy. and it's going to get better and better. And on the one half, people have been saying in the crypto industry, we don't want regulation. We need innovation. Don't shut down regulation and allow us not to be able to invest in what we want to invest in. And on the other hand, we're like, but protect us. We need protecting. So come in and save us. So there's a lot of this in crypto, and right now you just have to deal with it and go with your gut. And anybody that sits there and is hard stream like this is the way it is or this is the way it is, just I don't think is in the reality of what crypto is. Crypto is fluid. But it's fun, and I wouldn't want to be any other place. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. It'll be interesting if we end up with just USDC and how that plays out. And, it depends on what angle you're listening from or looking at it from, with many people saying that USDC kind of came in and now it's taking, it's going to kind of form the regulation for itself and then fit into that regulation so that nothing else can, type of thing. They're really going forward with transparent, like they really want to emphasize transparency along with regulation, because that's what we're asking for. As you just mentioned, we're like, we need transparency. And so they're like, look, we got it. We have all the reserves here. It'd be nice if we can see tethers as well. And if we have other stablecoins that can meet, I guess, the regulation that's going to be expected and put on, because I think that's going to be coming within the next year or two, would be that's just my total guess, where we'll have like some pretty strict stablecoin regulation. And hopefully it doesn't just come down to one, because it just seems unnecessary. But yeah, I guess time will tell.
Yeah, well, and it's kind of not in the spirit. Again, as I was talking about, that's the spirit of crypto, whatever definition that is for people. But yeah, we want diversity, and so we should hopefully have two at least. The other thing that's interesting is I don't really invest in some of these more decentralized stablecoins like DAI. Only because I just really haven't taken the time to get more confident in them. Now I do in some liquidity pools in DeFi, because I feel like I don't know. When I'm in DeFi, I'm really looking at it weekly, and so I kind of look at DeFi like I don't really trust anything, so I'm going to check it and watch it. But so if I'm investing in DAI and I am there, and another one called MAI, and what's interesting about those though is they're collateralized, which means you basically put up a dollar of Bitcoin or I think even USDC, and then you get a dollar of DAI. So it's like a 1-to-1. So it isn't. There should always be enough assets in held against it, because you can't get any DAI unless you put in the same amount of another crypto. So though that may be another thing, and it's interesting that hasn't gotten bigger and bigger, and it still seems like when anyone talks about stablecoins, they always talk about USDC and USDT. When DAI is it seems to be a really good alternative, but I don't know enough about it, but it just seems like it maybe it'll start to take off. I don't know. A lot of people really, really like DAI. Anyways, so, and then I guess, I had a question about CBDCs. How are CBDCs and stable coins, are they going to be completely separate, or is it possible that Circle will become sort of a CBDC?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I think that's what's being hinted at. I think that from multiple people that I've listened to, that could very well happen, where there's this whole view that's pretty negative on CBDCs at this point. And so it's going to kind of come in a different form, it'll have a different name. And USDC is so centralized, and it's already run kind of by those giants, that it's just kind of like swooping in and being like, oh, look, we're here to save the day, without being fully exposed, I guess. to those who haven't been really following this along. So it is kind of I think that's the hint behind the concerns that I'm catching.
Yeah.
And I know Coin Bureau's done other videos on this in the past where I've taken notes that a while ago on this kind of potentially happening. And so it's definitely a possibility. And
Well,
then it's
they're
interesting as well because we now have I know there's like Russia and Iran, places that do not have crypto as something that they allow their citizens to use. They're now developing and allowing for stable coins that are backed by gold, and for those to be able to be used for trade. So, uh, but it's not quite there, but they're bringing it in. So Russia has some things that they have to get through before they will like fully put it in to action, but they're like creating the plans for it right now. So that'll be interesting as well, because will that be their own stable coin? That's kind of where I get really lost when we talk about the BRICS nations, when we talk about,
yeah, me
how,
too.
if we're all going to be basically running digital, and if we have these other countries who are wanting to not use the US dollar, and then they're creating their own stable coins that are backed by gold, if we're running off of USDC, if those are like, that's where I kind of get lost. I'm not sure if USDC will take over the whole or just kind of like the West. So it's hard
Yeah.
to say.
One of the things I was thinking about was if if countries were to create their own stablecoin, and let's just focus on the U.S. If the U.S. was to create a transparent stablecoin that did not infringe on our privacy, I think I think I would be happy about that. And if all countries had theirs, and say some probably aren't going to be transparent and aren't going to, they will, infringe on privacy, but not for us to say necessarily. Countries are going to do their own thing. But if we could, if we all moved to that, so each country had their own stable coin. I mean, it was different, right? And then we had Bitcoin that just was the intermediary, so that just like now we would we transact in cash and in dollars, but we also have Bitcoin. And if we want to send somebody in Africa money, we can use our Bitcoin to send to them, and they can cash it out right now, or they can use their own currency, right? So I'm like envisioning this really positive state in, 10 years for sure, maybe 5, where CBDCs pop up, and that's okay because all it's really doing is just taking cash out of society. But that's happening already. I mean, I just hardly ever use cash. I had to write a check the other day and forgot how. But so it's already really happening. So it's not like it's going to freak people out. Like, oh my gosh, now I have to use this digital format. We're already doing it. So I don't think that'll freak people out. But of course, it's how it's implemented, of course. But I was just thinking, no matter what happens with these central currencies in the countries, we're still in a battle or a fight for what's sort of the national currency that we can use to transfer value around the world. So no matter what our currency in, like today, what does it matter if it's digital or cash? And as long as we have Bitcoin as either the fully adopted method that people can transfer cash or transfer value from one person to the other person, and you wouldn't use your local CBDC to transfer value to, say, somebody in France or in Europe because of the exchange differences, because that'll all be the same because it'll have to do with their governments, I assume. So I don't know. Have you ever thought about that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think. Well, I wouldn't say I thought about each country having its own. I haven't thought about that because my biggest fear with any of that is just the shut off button, the ability to freeze, as we saw like in Canada, which wasn't happening just with crypto, it was happening with bank accounts, and it's happened all over the world throughout these last couple of years with bank accounts being frozen. So like you said, the shift may not be as drastic as we think because all we see in our bank account is a number. There's nothing actually being transferred but a number.
Yeah.
And so that it will be likely to our phones next. I know I was reading a lot about how, we'll be doing most of our payments from our phones. But for me, I think the most safest place, I mean, of course, in my dreamland, that would be, like you said, as long as we have Bitcoin. If we have Bitcoin and if we have full custody, then I'm a happy camper.
Yeah.
But if there's, like Guy says, the powers that be, if they're whoever the powers that be are behind being able to just shut people off if they don't like what they're saying on the internet, or if they're, not following the censorship rules. And if we have these digital identities, then that's concerning. But do they already have that control with our bank accounts? I mean, I think,
Yeah.
I
mean,
think that it just makes the control a little bit expedited.
it does, but they really do, Brianna. That's the thing. They do now. I mean, our bank accounts are just numbers. So right now, the majority of everybody, every country, but definitely the U.S., right? It's all digital, right? I mean, how much cash do you have in your purse or your wallet right now? I've got $10. Now, so they can shut it down. So that's what I'm saying is why maybe CBDCs aren't as big a deal as we think, because they can shut it down right now. They could shut it down with the CBDC. The difference would be that let's say we can see some bad things happen, or somebody invades us or whatever, and we can see down the road. Yeah, I suppose we could go to the ATM and we could go to the bank. We could start pulling out cash, and we could have $5,000 in cash around, which maybe that's cool, and then when CBDCs come, that will be harder and harder. But really, what's 5,000 going to do? I mean, I guess it's better than nothing. But I see what I'm saying. It's like the issue that I think we're afraid of is that they'll be able to eavesdrop and look at every transaction that we have. And if somebody's doing something that they don't like, and they see it, so the transparency is really the issue. The privacy is the issue. It's not the digital, right? And it's not that America is going to have a digital currency, because in a way we're there. So I think the issue is that they're coming, and that's why I think it's Giancarlo was the guy that Brian Rose had on London Real, that is the digital dollar advocacy group or whatever, right? And what he's saying is that, hey, let's create one. Let's be talking about all the details and have it all laid out so that there's no ambiguity when it comes to doing it. That nobody can say, hey, we didn't know it would work like this, or we didn't know it would turn out like this. Like, put it all on the table and say, okay. And privacy and transparency being a big, huge block of information, like how is this going to be done? They should know how to implement it inside and out right now. And if that's the case, and hopefully that could be published so that we could all see it. Like, here are the proposals for what a CBDC will look like. And if it's not really clear that transparency and privacy is a component that is built in, then we need to really be aware of that and push back. And if it's there, we need to make sure that gets implemented. So that's what I like about doing it now, like talking about it, getting the code out there, getting people involved, creating it in a test environment, whatever. I'm not sure how they do it, but that sounds reasonable to me. They should be having this thing up and running in a test environment on a blockchain, and we should all be able to look at it. But don't confuse that with Bitcoin, and just adopt Bitcoin for the worldwide international transmission payment system and currency if you want it. And this is the thing that will be the point people won't like, or governments, is that if Bitcoin is still a currency, and what I think is going to happen is next year or this year, the Lightning Network is going to turn on. And all of a sudden, we're going to see that it's really, really easy to use Bitcoin to pay for things. And once it becomes common that it is really easy, and they've got the little mechanism that goes into the point of sale terminals at every store, then that will be the alternative. Now, the only concern I see then of governments is taxation, because if we're really all using just Bitcoin for transactions now, then they can't really tax that or have as much control. So they're afraid of that for sure. But I don't see them stopping that at all, because that's already available. And maybe they could have some licensing like in retail stores where they could say, well, if you do this and you take Bitcoin, you're not going to get some protection or subsidy or tax break or something, from us. And that would just be underhanded, and, we'd have to watch out for that. So all of this, I guess what I'm saying is that what's hitting me just in this discussion, I guess I've been thinking about it, is I think it's going to work out just fine. I really do. I really think it is. And people like Giancarlo that are in there working on it now and are well respected, was a federal regulator. And if we can get some more, congressmen and senators to really understand that and not to be fearful of it, but to know that they're going to get their pound of flesh. They're going to have to get what they need to get for governments. It's not that they're going to say, oh, you can have whatever you want, crypto people or whatever. They're going to get their taxation. They're going to get their regulation, because if not, they're going to look like they're not doing their job, and they're not going to have that. Again, I was really fooled by FTX and Sam Bankman-Fried, because I was saying the same thing about him. I was saying, look, we've got to compromise here, people. We've got to figure out some regulations. And he was, it seemed, because I don't know. I'm not sitting there, in those meetings. So I don't know what's really going on. I'm just inferring from what I'm reading and watching, and I do a lot of it. But I don't really know what's going on. So it sounded reasonable to me. Even the fact that people were saying, well, he wanted to, regulate DeFi. I actually didn't see it that way. I just thought that, we need to put some regulations around to, protect people. So we'll see how that goes. I'm a little gun shy now, since, SBF turned out to be, whatever, the unmentionable, or what the person to be not unnamed. How does that go?
Yeah.
Harry Potter.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I've heard it, but I'm not sure. I've never seen a Harry Potter. I need to get to
Oh
that.
my gosh.
I'm adding that add that to my list. I think
Matrix? Have you seen The Matrix?
I've seen The Matrix one time. I've still got to do it. I feel like I'm living in it. As far as I know, I'm being told I'm living in it. I don't know.
Little bubble, the little bubble up in the Northwest there, in a shack in the woods, maybe. Watch out.
Yeah, it's all gonna. I agree with you that it's all gonna end up okay. I think that no matter what, and again, I still have this belief that I feel like Bitcoin was created as kind of an out to the system that we're living in, that's so confined and that's so controlled. And I think that that's always going to exist. I mean, I think the importance for me and many others is having ownership that, that is mine. I have full control over. That's where self-custody, that's where Bitcoin comes in, and the importance of that. Because I feel like we have the right to be able to exchange between two people without an intermediary for certain things. Yeah.
I would say that, what's interesting about that is I agree with you that we have the right to be able to exchange with whoever we want without somebody overseeing it. But here's the interesting point about that. Thank God, though, that system was there, because the whole financial system was built on, we don't trust each other, right? And we needed third-party advocates to allow us to feel comfortable and go to bed at night that someone wasn't going to steal our coins or our shells or our whatever, right? When money was being created. And it's ironic that it's still there, the exact same way that money was created, back when they were passing out shells. The same basic system is still in place to have a third party, because we couldn't trust each other. So in a way, I'm glad it was there, but we now have an alternative. It's sort of amazing if you think it took this long for somebody to crack the code of the double spend issue and literally being able to have a system that we wouldn't need third party oversight. This blows me away that it took this long, but now it's here, and it's only going to get better. But we got to quit being afraid of moving away from that system. And I get it. We're talking trillions and trillions of dollars that are entrenched into this existing system. right? So it's just not going to go away fast, and it's entrenched, and people that make a lot of money and all of their identity is tied up in this old system, right? So it makes sense that this is rocking the boat. But the cat's out of the bag. Bitcoin's not going away. It's either going to be Bitcoin or something better. And I really believe Bitcoin this year is going to be the year of Bitcoin. And I think all of crypto will move, but Bitcoin's gonna we get this lightning thing rocking and rolling, and I hear that it is now. I don't know who's gonna announce it or how it's gonna happen, but and the cool thing about it, from what I can tell, is that we use the Bitcoin network, and actually Bitcoins are underneath happening, but you're really not using Bitcoin at the end of it. It's just a transaction that it's like no one knows you're actually using Bitcoin. It's just layered on top of it, but it uses that network and all the value and the security below it to make it work, and it's instantaneous. So that's fascinating to me. I can't wait to see that roll out and really what does that even mean? But that's what I'm hearing. Happens, is you don't even know you're using Bitcoin for these transactions. So that'll be interesting. Anyways, well, I'm going to go ahead and jump in here because we're talking about Bitcoin, and I've got some breaking news here.
Okay, let's get to it.
Let's get to it
Right
here.
there. Have we reached the bottom, right? Is that what the question was?
Yeah, have we reached the bottom? And I've got an article here that shows that we have. All right, hold on. Well, these are my friends over at Weiss Crypto, and they say that we've hit the bottom. And here is the chart. Here's the magic chart. So their theory is that there are cycles in the crypto market, and there are 20-day cycles that every 20 days Bitcoin's going to hit a low. And if you put 4 of those together, you're going to have this 80-day cycle. And what this shows you is that where that line is drawn and it says the previous 80-day cycle in November had it up around 21, just above 21. And so in this theory, and it's much deeper than this, but it's basically saying that because now the low is still higher than the last low, which is what just happened now when it broke out of over 21 and up here to 23, that this is the signal, according to these guys, that the bear market is over. Boom. These guys are laying it out there, that it is over. So it says that approximately every 80 days, Bitcoin will make a low. And of course, between the 80-day lows, there's always an 80-day high. In bear markets, each 80-day cycle is always lower than the previous. So each of these 80 days, there's a high, but it's always lower. And that shows that you're in a bear market. And now, if Bitcoin rises above its 80-day high, it means the bear market is over. So just like it showed here, it dropped down to a low, but it's higher than it was here. And so he's saying that this is it, and I think that's the cycle again. Some more on here. It says the beginning of the new Bitcoin cycle, and this is going to be the 4-year cycle of 23 to 25. So he's saying now that we'll be that we won't. The way I read this here is we're not going to be in a bear market again until 2025. I don't know. Interesting. 3 years of rich opportunities. So what he's saying is, buy now. I mean, it's going to go up. He doesn't say how high. I don't think he says how high. But he's like, it ain't going lower. This is it. He shows here that, let's see, the last cycle in 2018 shows here the big bottom was here, and then you had another high, and then you had this, I guess, high here, and then it went higher. But he was saying that this bottom here was higher than this bottom here, or this bottom, I guess. And so that's his signal.
That's a bold statement.
Yeah, it is. And what's interesting about it was that a lot of people are still saying that, they're confident that this year will go up, but they're saying it could go down again. And he's saying that in all of his charting, that this type of chart, this type of the way it's bounced here, that it can go down, but it's not going to go. I guess he's saying it's not going to go below here, which is hard to believe. But I think what I certainly see here is it's not going to go down to here. It's not going to go down in here. So if it does come down, I'm pretty confident it's not going to be down in here in the 17 again. That we're in this 20,000 or above for the long run now. That's kind of how, at least that's what I'm taking out from it. So I've been dollar cost averaging. So, like right now I'm just trying to debate if, should I just put a chunk in there? Should I just, because I've been putting a lot of stuff into DeFi, but like maybe I should just plop some more into, Bitcoin, because, with DeFi, it's kind of a longer run, but I'd like to have, another couple thousand in Bitcoin right now when it starts to shoot up. Now, here's his other predictions is that Ethereum will actually beat Bitcoin this year. Well, I don't know if he says this year, but it's happening. I think he believes it will happen this year. And it doesn't mean that the price will be higher, but he says it will rise. It'll be a higher price rise than Bitcoin will be. And I agree. And the other thing that's interesting is this guy also loves Polygon. And I agree, because I think that Ethereum is going to just continue to be the big dog. And I have this feeling that Polygon and Arbitrum and Optimism, these layer twos, they've just proven their mettle. It's like they work great. They improve efficiency. I don't know about security, but we haven't heard any big hacks on these, because they basically use Ethereum as their security layer, and they ride on top of it. And Polygon is bringing in all the big companies are creating applications to run on top of Polygon, but an Arbitrum too. Arbitrum is doing really well. Arbitrum doesn't have a token yet, and I'm hoping that I'm going to get some airdrop, because I've been trying to put a lot of transactions on Arbitrum network. And then when they have a token, I think it's going to take off. So I'm really bullish on any layer twos right now. And I'm debating whether I just should dump some money, because I'm not a real big coin investor, but this is making me think, I might want to put some money into like Arbitrum, Optimism, and Polygon, and Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then just leave it at that. Don't mess with Cardano. Don't mess with these other layer ones. I'm not saying that the layer one fight is completely over, but I don't know. I don't see anybody. Yeah, I'm not saying they won't rise, because even Solana, crashed and then it rose way up. And if you were trading that, you probably made a ton of money. Cardano's still hanging in there. I don't know. There's Tezos and some of these others that still may come up with some amazing new technology. But right now, and for the next 2 or 3 years, I would say that Ethereum and these few layer twos are going to do great. So that's kind of what I'm betting on. Yeah. So there you go. What do you think of that?
I like it.
Do you like it?
I also think, like, what comes to mind as you're reading this is how many people are kind of sitting there waiting for this type of language to be said, and a lot of times what happens is you'll hear it one place, and then you'll start to hear it somewhere else, and then it will start to spread. And then all the people that have been kind of waiting might just jump on, because that's exactly how you feel. It's exactly how I feel. It's like, okay, you're still kind of waiting. You're still dollar cost averaging in, and then you hear this kind of stuff, and then you're like, all right, yep, like time to go in. And so, yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know. I had kind of a different view going into 2023, like a couple of months ago, kind of thinking it was going to get really tight with liquidity, and I still think there's that chance. So that's my one thing I don't know, but I also think on the other side there's still the recognition of blockchain and all of that that's coming in at the same time. So it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, I agree with you. I can confident I go with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Matic. Those are my top 3.
Yep.
Arbitrum, I know you've talked about that quite a bit. I keep seeing it a lot. I haven't learned about it.
Well, it's funny because they don't even have a token yet, and it'll be interesting to see what it comes like when it drops and I think it could be any day now. It'll be interesting to see what it does if it just like skyrockets, because the theory or the strategy that I'm working under is when you do these airdrops and you're preparing for it, once you get the airdrop, you sell right away. But not all of it, maybe 90%, because what has mostly always happened is the price does shoot way up, because they'll be like, oh, I've been waiting for this for a long time, and they're like, yeah, it's going to be great, and the price shoots way up, and then there's reality sets in, and then it just comes down, and a lot of people profit take right away anyway, so then it just brings it down. But I love Arbitrum, so that and typically like optimism was the same way, and this is what happened with optimism, very similar. People made a killing, and then but it's still a good project, so you keep some in there for sure. So that will be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, I think that I kind of lost my train of thought. But this jumping on the bandwagon. I think that what was interesting, and I'm not great on the detail of how these stop losses are all put in, but that was another big figure, is that a lot of stop losses got taken out because it went up, and it just took out all these stop losses and sold. And once that's gone, and there's just no more sellers. And this is the thing about, because I agree, I really don't know what's going to happen with the Fed and the interest rates and so on. And so if it does stay, if the Fed keeps raising interest rates or doesn't lower them, and we're still going to have this pressure on the economy, we're still going to have this sort of downward pressure. But what people are saying is that we've had that, and Bitcoin didn't crash. It just stayed there around 17, 18. Has been kind of, in my mind, sort of around 20, right, for a long, long time, up and down a little bit, but that, it didn't crash. And so it just proved the stability of it. So now that some of these charts, and again, I don't really understand that detail, but the chart masters are saying, okay, it's done its thing. It's not, it's resilient. It's not going to come down. Or the market, like, there's no more sellers. And so that just means buyers. And so whether people, or potentially buyers, people that are ready to buy, will they start buying? And so, as you said, will this talk start to push that up? But what happens when the Fed or this downward pressure or inflation stays high or whatever? And that's the part I agree with you. I was thinking the economy as a whole, and that whole inflation thing, that we're not out of the woods there in 2023. But I think the cool thing, this is what I'm feeling, is that no matter what, Bitcoin's still going to do good. Now, maybe it won't get back to 50,000 this year, but it's going to be not below 20, and that's kind of my prediction. And the other thing about that, as traders, traders have been probably doing really good right now in crypto, because trading, depending on the kind of trader, but if you're a swing trader or a day trader or anything like that, you want volatility, and you want things to move around sideways in a way. You almost don't want these huge, big swings, because you're trading, you're going, you're long as it's going up and you're short as it's coming down, and you're making, money either way. And so right now they're really happy because it's had this big move, and if you got in there and and you're able to sell like now, probably pretty good. And then if it comes back down a little bit, you can write it down. So traders have been probably pretty happy around this, and there are some interesting strategies. Again, I just wish I had more time, in my day, because I would really like to dive into that, where you really are in a long and short positions as the market goes up and down. It's like that would be interesting. It's just it's like day trading. You have to be eyes glued to the monitor the whole day. So, anyways, let's move on. You got another article?
If you have another one, I kind of summarized what my other one was with that other stablecoin.
Okay, I got another one.
You have another one? Let's head to that one.
All right, we got some degen news, some DeFi degen news. Okay, hold on. Why isn't that working? Oh, here we go. All right, so this is about insurance. So DeFi insurance, something I've been really looking at a while, but it's funny because the way I like this is, are DeFi degens in good hands? Like, could insurance companies help them? Soon even degens could be covered by DeFi insurance policies. And I'm like, I think I know what a degen is, but I had to look it up. A DeFi degen, or decentralized finance degenerate, is a trader investing in risky, niche, unaudited crypto projects. DeFi degens often focus their investments on meme tokens and joke projects, and the term is often associated with pump and dump price schemes. Wow, that's really harsh. I didn't know the word degen was that harsh.
I'm
But
glad you. I'm glad you had the explanation because I was about to Google it because I'm like I've heard that.
I
I
know.
still I find myself Googling these terms just so often. So thank you. I'm glad you laid
Yeah.
that out.
Well, there you go. Yeah, yeah, that seems a little more harsh. I just like, degens are risky, and that's I could leave it at that. But anyway, so it says at the moment, less than 1% of all assets in the $47 billion DeFi ecosystems are covered by a policy that will help replace them after a hack or a code error. Did you even know that there was insurance for DeFi?
I did not. I think
Yeah,
I've had this conversation on whether there could be,
yeah.
uh, but no, I didn't know that there was.
I mean, they've been around for a while, but not, I didn't know that this many people. Well, only 1%, I guess. So it's still not a big deal. But when I looked into it about 6, 8 months ago, it seemed really expensive. It just didn't seem quite worth it at the time because I didn't have that much in there. But I'm like, I think there needs to be something like this to boost more confidence in people getting in there, because you read about hacks all the time, and a lot of times they will protect you from hacks, or if the code just breaks down and doesn't work the way it should, it'll protect you from that, and maybe something else I can't remember. But anyways, so let's move down here. So it says now that the companies are selling DeFi cover. Oh, it's interesting. They call the insurance companies, again, this is unregulated, and the insurance companies in traditional finance and world is very regulated. So they don't even like to call themselves insurance. They just say it's called DeFi cover, basically the same thing, but obviously there's a lot of differences in the nuances and the nitty gritty. But it says that roughly 68% of the claims filed since June have now been paid. Now that the companies are selling DeFi cover, the preferred term in the industry for this type of insurance, have survived their baptism by fire. They're optimistic about keeping the momentum going. So, that's a pretty good number, 68% during this last crisis that we've had were claimed, and again, only 1% of them are, but it seems to be working. So that's good. So DeFi cover is a catch-all term for insurance that covers blockchain-related activities. It uses the same basic principle as traditional insurance. Policyholders pay a premium and receive a payout if and when they file a claim that is covered. Those events are where the products really depart from traditional insurance. Things like stablecoins losing their peg, crypto assets being stuck on a platform, hacks and or code errors causing smart contracts to behave erratically. So those are all the things that covers everything that I was worried about. So, but here there's even better news. It says for something like a stablecoin losing its peg, such as when a coin is designed to hold the value of $1 suddenly drops below that mark, these tools can send the payment to the policyholder as soon as it detects that the stablecoin has dropped 5% or more of the value of its target asset. So that's cool. Just automatically, again, it's part of the code. It just boom, pops in there. But in other cases, like customer funds getting stuck on a company's platform, there's usually a 90-day waiting period before claims can be filed. For those, humans have to usually get involved, which takes a little bit longer. But it's still covered, which is cool. It says of the 525 claims that have been submitted since then, from everything from Axie Infinity sidechain and Binance bridge hacks to the Mango Market flash loan attack or the demise of crypto companies like Celsius, FTX, roughly 68% of them resulted in a payout. Degens, a crypto-specific term that's short for degenerates, thrive on high-risk trading and obsession with crypto. And even if they don't sign up for DeFi cover policies directly, they could still find themselves with a backstop the next time they get in or the next time they get wrecked. And this is the cool part. It says because DAOs, DeFi projects, and other crypto businesses are now buying insurance themselves. So this is really, really good news because I think that's all that I have in there. But what that says is that the DeFi protocols themselves or the DAOs that control it, they're now actually buying the insurance policy. They're part of it. So when you get in and do business with them, if you lose, they will cover it. Now I don't know what sacrifice they're have to make, maybe in yield a little bit or whatever. But that's great because then I don't have to deal with it on my own and figure it out. I just know that if this smart contract that I'm working with is covered, and I know what I'm covered by, and even if I have to sacrifice some yield, I probably would do it. So good news on this front. Good news
Just
for
for that
DeFi.
peace of mind, like you said, you're like, I think at the beginning of this talk today that, you're checking things you're in DeFi, you're checking things very frequently,
Yeah.
just for the peace of mind that's not kind of hanging on the back of your head of,
Yeah.
is it going to be there when I go back? And
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
and
how I
once
felt
you,
with Luna. Once you go through that, it's
yeah,
just I'll just never forget that feeling. And there was two primary feelings. The first one was confusion, like what's going on here? I just remember this so vividly that all I heard this that Terra was something was up with Terra, that UST was becoming unpegged or whatever. And I knew what that meant, but I just didn't really know. And it was really about 3 days as it completely crashed. So I sat there and each day I watched the news, but paralyzed to know what to do. And so that I just remember that feeling of not checking or checking and not seeing anything different and not knowing what I was even looking at on the screen. And it was not reflecting the reality of what was happening. And that was frustrating. So it would be it. So I still have that. That's why, even in the most stable situations, I want to check it every week and just make sure that something doesn't look weird. And even then, because my experience was it looked okay on the screen, but it wasn't. And I'm not sure there's anything to do with that other than insurance, which means that whether I know or not, if if it does crash or something bad happens, that I'm covered. And especially, well, the whole thing about crypto being an open source protocols, and the fact that anyone can just create a DeFi project or any crypto project, really. But DeFi and specifically, to create a new layer one blockchain is a big deal. No, you can't really just do that, and you got to have a lot of money, a lot of coders, to have a rival one, an L1 that's going to rival what's out there now. But smart contracts, I think anybody could just whip one of those up. I don't think it's that hard, especially if you're a programmer and there's templates and it's open source software. So it's pretty easy to create like a DeFi protocol and put it out there. That's worrisome, right? Because how do I know that they're what kind of coders they are, and so they can have the best marketing in the world and entice you to put it in there, and it can be crappy code. So this insurance thing I really like because unlike in the banking system or traditional finance, you never had to worry about that. You have to worry about, well, are they a good coder? These were big,
right.
huge institutions. They were the only ones that could do it, right? And they had so much regulation that you trusted that. And that's the good part of that old system. And so, again, we want our cake and eat it too. We want to be decentralized. We want them to not control it, but we do, we fear the uncertainty of this. It's just part of the game. And a lot of people don't want to play the game. But what I keep saying to people is that, just get in here with a little bit of money and learn it. Don't completely discount crypto or, everything because you've heard a few things on the news. I mean, get in here and try it. And then if you see, okay, it works pretty good, like me, it's like, I know it works really good. I physically can do it and I understand it, but that still doesn't mean that I'm not going to get burned because of hacks or bad code. So it'll just get better. These insurance things will get better and better and better, I'm sure. So it's just really good news. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah. I really like the way that it put with the degens. It's like you'll have that the next time you get wrecked. Like there's a for sure time you're gonna get wrecked again. And it's really funny because there's just so many different types of investors. And there's so many factors that come in and variables when like the timing, when did you come into the market? Because you can easily become, I kind of witnessed it a little bit, certain people becoming a degen themselves as I was going through the same process but I had started investing earlier. I had a little bit of a broader scope, but reaching for all these things and I was watching it, I was like, they're talking about it. And I'm like, man, like you're really going into those That's what you're going to like, and it's like the most tacky looking and sounding protocols.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, but everybody learns their own lessons as they go. And for me, I kind of stayed on the straight and narrow, thankfully. And I haven't been burned. A lot of that's just been out of luck, but I'm learning with this to learn lessons from the people around you.
Oh
Because
yeah.
I felt so hard for people within a lot of these, with Terra Luna, with Celsius. I mean, having their just all everything like their funds just locked up. I mean, it was just like brutal to be on the other side of those conversations with those people for days and then weeks and then months, and like you just see their hope like just diminishes and diminishes.
Did they
And
ever, those people, did you ever talk to them or did they ever admit or say, wow, I can't believe I put that much money into that? Did they ever say
yeah,
that?
I mean, I just have one in mind in particular, and I won't say names, but it was somebody who I was kind of connected with, and it for this individual, it was like very new learning about crypto and learning, kind of going through a course and learning about it, and had some really good gains right off the bat, which that happened to me at the beginning of my investing. And then it gives you this certain perspective. And so he was like, okay, now I'm going to go over here. And then it's like a playland. It's like a playground, and like
Right.
you're all over the place and you're just getting so scattered and you're like, you're yield farming over here and you have no idea what's behind that code or who's behind that protocol. Like, but you don't quite grasp that depending on where you are and you're investing. So if you're a beginner, you might not grasp that this isn't set up like traditional finance. This isn't something that you might not just,
Right.
so without knowing and having that wisdom behind it. And I think that's one good thing that you point out a lot. It's like, if you're going to come in, like and you should, it's not investment advice, but come in with a little bit, like get a feel and like
Yeah.
start educating and kind of get a feel for what's happening with all this space, learn from the people around you and kind of get feelers out of what they're doing and what seems like, but it takes time to have the full understanding, but it's really easy if you have those quick successes right off the bat to be able to get carried away.
Yeah, I think
And
that's probably the key because in my mind, and again, I wasn't like that. I didn't have that a bunch of quick successes. It was the market was sort of actually went down, not crashing, but So I guess that's perspective because in my mind, I'm just like, why would anyone put so much money that like when something crashed that bad, they would be devastated and just like so painful. And it was painful. $800 was painful, but it was $800. It's like it's not gonna bankrupt me, or it's not gonna. All it did was, in the best way, taught me this sort of lesson in that way. But when you hear these stories about these painful people, wiping out their savings, and pretty much, they had so much that was in crypto that now they can't even participate at all in it. And I just like, wow, why did you have that much in there? And the other thing too is that not only start small but diversify, and that's the thing. It's like I got myself spread all over the place, and I'm no wizard here. It just kind of made sense, and I listened to the people, and that was the other thing. That's why I wanted to become a crypto educator, because it did take me a while to find clarity and some sanity in how to do this stuff, and not put it all in one place or go to the moon or whatever. And I really found those people that really pushed this on me from the very beginning, and maybe I got lucky. But now it's what I want to make sure that I do the same thing and just really push that safety issue. But also, that's sort of the way I feel and hope that people that are on the fence about crypto, if they hear the message, hey, just go slow, just start off a little bit, diversify, get a hot and cold wallet. I mean, I don't know if some of those people, had ever heard of that. I mean, if you're in DeFi, it may be a different story because you have to put your money out there. But yeah, I just think that's the thing. And so the more of us that are talking about that, hopefully the new people that come in won't listen to the degens that are all saying go to the moon. Maybe
yeah,
some of us a little more experience, a little calmer, can give that experience. Hey,
absolutely.
Petia, how you doing? Thanks. Petia says she loves our show. So thanks, Petia. We love you.
Yeah, we do love you. Always
All
love to
right.
see. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think
We're going to
that's
get
good advice.
out of here. But yeah.
Yeah. I think with one final word that just comes to mind that I think is so important
Yeah.
is doing your due diligence. Like, it doesn't ever get old to hear that, and knowing where the information is coming from. Because if you're coming into this and you read an article a lot of times you have to know that there may be something behind that. There may be an agenda behind somebody wanting that, they want you to think their coin's going to the moon, but understanding the scope of, and for me at one point, I downloaded a map of the ecosystem to be like, where does everything fit in?
Oh,
and
good.
to get the grasp of what is this and how does it work, and understanding that there is an ecosystem, and that certain players have their place and many players don't have a place other than the hype. So very
Oh, that's really good. Okay, so I love that. I want you to send that to me if you can, and I'm so glad you used the word ecosystem, because that is my new word. And I was talking to Brianna before the show started. This is the area that I'm really trying to focus on. Is most people just think of crypto as an investment, and there's so much more to it. And when I like the word ecosystem, it's the crypto ecosystem. I like the word crypto, even though cryptocurrency really is a misnomer because it means everything's a currency, which it's not at all. Really, maybe Bitcoin is the only one that even could be considered that. And even that really isn't. So why is it called cryptocurrency? Well, it's just the name that had there, but everybody knows that name. But it's a crypto ecosystem. So that's really good. And that is something that I think would help, Brianna, and is if we can see where it all fits in and look at this ecosystem and treat it like that and talk about it like that. So
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, one more from Harley. Harley put it in the chat. People I talk to about crypto will not enter the market because there is typically no help if things go wrong. I just tell them to start small. Then if things go wrong, it's a cheap learning curve. And I agree with you, Harley. It's all part of the tuition. The tuition to learn crypto, right?
Yeah. And that is, Brian Rose, our mentor, that's what he said. It's like, and even in the early days when there really was only Ethereum to do some of these DeFi transactions, we'd be doing these we'd be investing $10 and gas would be $20 to run the transaction. He's like, it's tuition. If you get scared off because of gas right now, you're never going to actually do it. And it isn't until you do it, literally log in and do it, that you feel comfortable. So it was tuition. It was a little hard to swallow, but he said it's going to be hard to swallow, but do it anyways. And now that we've done it, and so when we keep talking about, just test it with small amounts and just go slow, and just if people think, here's the other thing people think is like, well, I got to catch up, I don't want to lose the opportunity. We're just at the beginning. There's going to be opportunities. Now, I mean, here's the thing, Bitcoin, hopefully y'all have been buying some Bitcoin while it's low, oh gosh. So, I mean, and now, I don't think it's going lower than 20. So, I mean, it's still a great bargain, but I mean, you could have got a lot lower. And that's the thing. It's like, but crypto will be up to 60 again and probably back down to 20 again, before it hits 100,000 or whatever, who knows? But I don't know. We'll leave it at that. But yeah, crypto is an ecosystem. We'll talk more about that, both of us, because I think I'm really glad you brought that word up, because it had been on my mind a lot and I forgot to even use it. So crypto ecosystem. Go. Yes. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for giving us a chat here and there. And we'll see you next week. We're going to have lots more. Hey, Bitcoin's hit the bottom, baby. Come on. That's what I'm saying. It's hit the bottom. So let's get in there. Let's rock it.
Yeah. Raise the roof. Let's do it.
Raise the roof. All right, baby.
We'll be here next Friday at noon Pacific time. We will see you all next time. Thanks for showing up today.
Woo. Thanks. Bye.